The relationship with yourself. Reclaiming authenticity is a rite of passage for the natural misfits. Intensity and sensitivity are tremendous gifts, but without the right understanding and support, having an operating system that is out of sync can result in many shameful experiences. If your parents, teachers, or peers were important or critical towards your quirks, you might have assumed you were in the wrong. You believed that not fitting in meant there was something wrong with you, that it was you who needed to change. If that is the case, eventually you disown your intensity and lose touch with your essence. At some point in your life, however, you will be called back to your true nature. The call may be as a result of a significant transitioning, moving to a new country, a critical illness, the end of a career, the departure of something or someone dear to you. Then you realize that it is not enough to exist as just a projection of your spouse, parents, friends, or society, and that you must reclaim your intuitive and empathic soul. In this chapter, we will walk you through the sacred process of your transformation from forcing yourself to fit in where you do not, to finding true belongingness. The good news is that your soul might have been shielded, but it has not disappeared. Your intensities do not cease to exist just because your family, school, church, and social conventions disregard them. You may have overworked your suit of armor, but eventually your truth will wake you up, sometimes at surprising times. Jung found that people often suffer from anxiety or depression at the midpoint of their lives, which for the old souls can mean anything from mid-20s to late 50s because they are sick of normalization when you can no longer hide from your truth. It is actually a sign of health. The death of your old self. Reclaiming your identity as a sensitive and intense person is the first step in your transformation from hiding to thriving. In all transformations, you release something old to make room for something new. Your false self must die before your true self can be reborn. Alongside some relationships, titles, and career paths, you also need to forego long-held beliefs, ideas about what the future holds, and who you thought you were. With the letting go of your old identity, and you enter a chaotic liminal space, a space where you float an in-between zone. Mystics call this period the dark night of the soul. In this disconcerting time, what you have learned through your family, education, and the social order no longer holds up to your questioning. More and more, what seemed normal looks hypocritical, insufficient, or unethical. Your previous drivers, survival fears, the need to prove yourself, the reliance on external approval drop away. Others may not understand the change in you since you live in a culture that values forward movement and productivity. Being detached from these ego-driven ideals leaves you in an isolated position. If you then try to resolve this challenge through conventional wisdom and taking traditional advice from others, you will find that these old ways have ceased to help. Your invitation. Mental chaos is also a rite of passage as you step into your full potential. Many great artists and thinkers have to go through this to find their voices and to put their unique stamp on the world. Carl Jung developed his theory of individualization out of his own painful personal experience. Being the son of a pastor in the Swiss Reformed Church, he discovered early in his life that he could not subscribe to the Orthodox Protestant faith in which he had been raised. He had to forge his own path. He did this again in later life, when he disagreed with his long-term friend and mentor Sigmund Freud. Reflective exercise. Your eulogies. Memento mori is a Latin phrase that literally means remember death. As a practice, it means to contemplate our own mortality and the brevity and fragility of human life. It may seem paradoxical at first glance, but for sages, philosophers, and artists from across time and space, the death meditation is a tried and true antidote to much of our human suffering, including death anxiety itself. Remembering that our time is finite helps us stay in the present moment, refocus on our deepest values and motivates us to relinquish fixations on things that are ultimately trivial and transient in nature. The ancient Stoic philosophers used the meditation on death to stimulate courage, humility, moderation, and other virtues. In this exercise, you are encouraged to contemplate your own mortality in order to focus on and harness the best of what you do have, the gift of life. Make sure that you set aside at least an hour for this exercise. Find a quiet place where you will not be interrupted. Start by closing your eyes and take a few deep breaths. Imagine that you have come to the end of your life. For some miraculous reason, you are able to witness your own funeral from above. Visualize what it looks like. Where will it be? Will it be indoor or outdoor? Who will be there? See their faces and the expressions on their faces. You can have many or a few people at your funeral. There is no limit. Now imagine that someone close to you stands up to tell others that they remember what they remember about you. They will speak about who you were, what you stood for, how you have lived, what made your path unique, how you made people around you feel, and what you have brought to the world. For this first part of this exercise, write your eulogy as if your life ended today. Think about people you have met in the past and what they may say about you. Take a moment to celebrate all that you have done so far, but also think about all the unfulfilled hopes and dreams if you leave the world at this very moment. Be as honest as possible, even if some of the truths hurt. Now imagine some years have passed and you have died as an older person. This time write your eulogy as you would ideally like it. Think about your legacy, the meaning you have created in the world, lives you have touched, and all of your contributions. What does it mean to have a well-lived life? What would you want to be remembered for? Can you summarize your messages in a few sentences? As much as possible, think beyond external achievements and focus on the qualities and values you want to have manifested. Now read back on what you have written. Did anything surprise you?